Key players who will be here over the course of the next few days, beginning at 5 o'clock this afternoon with a speech from Donald Trump.
We'll wait for that. All right, Mark, for now in Florida, thank you so much. All right, well, that's all from the team here on Sky News today. Coming up next, we've got a special edition of Business Live with Darren McCaffrey, who's been in the pub all day. Darren?
It's a hard life, isn't it, Kamali? Yeah, very good afternoon to you from Harrogate. We are in a Wetherspoons. Been speaking to the boss, the chairman, the founder of Wetherspoons, Tim Martin, as those inflation figures have come out today, and concerns about tax rises to come. The impact on Wetherspoons, on Yorkshire, on the UK, coming up in Business Live in just a couple of minutes. Stay tuned.
Weeknights on Sky News.
This is your chance. Tell people. Welcome to the Politics Hub.
Our police force has apologised. If you want to find out about Grimsby, you come to the docks.
I'm live in Jerusalem.
Are you not concerned that that could lead to all-out war?
Hello there, good evening. There are fears of an upsurge in violence. What's at stake here?
You are watching the press preview, a first look at the front pages as they arrive.
A very good afternoon and welcome to Business Live here on Sky News, a special edition looking at the impacts of inflation from a Wetherspoons in Harrogate. Coming up, a surprise jump in UK inflation with plane fares, meat, bread and school fees behind the biggest price rise for nearly a year. We'll get reaction from the nation's most outspoken publican, Sir Tim Martin, about inflation and those looming tax rises for businesses.
We're talking about 1.2 million for Wetherspoon a week. Yes, it's a lot, and it's more for pubs and hospitality than for supermarkets.
Yeah, very good afternoon and welcome to Harrogate. It is Business Live with me, Darren McCaffrey, and today we're at the Winter Gardens. I think it's fair to say, considered one of the finest of the 800 Wetherspoons pubs there are in the UK. And I've been talking to the pub's founder and chairman, Sir Tim Martin, about today's inflation figures, plus that impending rise to national insurance contributions for employers, which he says will cost Wetherspoons more than £1 million a week. We'll have more on that in a moment. But first, to that surprise jump in inflation today from 2.5% in December to 3% in January. Let's have a look at that in a bit more detail with our business and economics correspondent, Gurpreet Narwan.
Inflation, it's back on an unpredictable path, with food, airfares and VAT on private schools driving the measure higher. And parents at this Stay and Play cafe in Harrogate are worried.
The mortgage is up for renewal next year, and it's just everything's so expensive, isn't it? So it is a worry. Obviously, with the two children, they're very expensive.
Some more pain from them. My two younger children are going to have a very different experience than my older children because we used to be able to take them out on days out. We can't do that with the younger two.
Hannah, the owner here, hasn't paid herself a wage for the last 18 months.
The only way that we can survive is obviously by putting the prices up, but then it puts the customers off coming and, well, they can't afford to come. So, yeah, it's a bit of a catch-22 situation.
But inflation will climb even higher. It's expected to hit 3.7% later this year because of higher energy prices. Policymakers, however, are sanguine. Right now, they are more worried about weak growth. The Bank of England is confident that inflation will eventually come back down to target. It means that policymakers will continue cutting interest rates this year, even as the headline rate of inflation rises. They're going to have to hold their nerve. If the last few years have taught us anything, it's that inflation can be an unpredictable beast. And if it stays high while growth stalls, well, that's not a place the Chancellor wants to be. Businesses say she's not helping the cause by ramping up employers' national insurance contributions.
We're talking about 1.2 million for Wetherspoon a week.
A week?
Yes, it's a lot, and it's more for pubs and hospitality than for supermarkets because we've got more labour costs per pint.
Wetherspoon's pre-tax profits jumped to £74 million last year, but smaller businesses are less well insulated.
Beef has gone up ×4 over the last 15 years.
Paul Kendall runs Kendall's Farm Butchers in Pateley Bridge.
I feel now you have to just be careful with how you're going to expand. I've thought about doing a deli and expanding the range, but just at the moment I'm sitting on my hands and just seeing how this plays out. So instead of going for the growth, more protection of what we've got.
High inflation might end up being a bump in the road, but businesses and customers fear it will be a long journey back to brighter economic prospects. Gurpreet Narwan, Sky News.
Well, we've been in the Wetherspoons here in Harrogate all day. It is clearly a bit of a budget boozer, isn't it? Keeping prices low, but it's been busy all day today. It is half term. There are people here on families, but there are older people, proper generational, if you like, coming from near and far to what is, let's be honest about this, a rather nice Wetherspoons. But I've been speaking to some of those customers, and the sense that you get is that for many of them, the reason they do come to Spoons, if you like, is because of the very fact that it doesn't cost as much money as other places.
You come here, it's not very much increased here, but you get coffee for £1.20 you can fill up. You go up the road to Costa and stuff and you're looking at £6 for one, so it's extortionate, really.
Everyone's feeling the squeeze daily. This country's not giving us a break. 100%. It's very hard. You've got to watch every penny now, hence Wetherspoons.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a shame, but I only see it getting worse.
Just buy less. Go to Aldi and Lidl instead of Sainsbury's and Waitrose. You're not forced to do anything. I'm not forced to come in here, but I have done because I can afford it.
Pensions, we're forgotten. We've paid into our pensions, we're not getting it back. Same with the WASPy women. I was one of them. I paid in all that money. I haven't got it back.
It's either eating or heating.
You have to really think
me
about
at home.
things.
I'm on holiday at the moment, so yes, I'm eating. And I'm going into hotels and restaurants, but I can't afford to heat and eat. So my heating, I'm in like blankets and everything at home.
There you go, that's the view of some of the customers here in Wetherspoons today. I've also been talking to the founder and chairman, Sir Tim Martin, and I began by asking him his reaction to today's inflation figures.
Well, having been trading for over 40 years, we've had a lot of it, and pretty high in the 80s, very high in the 80s, down a bit in the 90s, and then we had a quiet period, and then we've had trouble recently. So I think one of the main things about inflation is no one predicts it very well. So interest rates have started going down because inflation's going down, and then it starts going back up. So I just hope it isn't too high like everyone else. And
But you're quite good at absorbing cost.
We, in a way, we have to be. If you're running a business, you have to try and be good at absorbing costs. So I will take your compliment.
Well, I mean that in the sense that, so inflation is going to tick up this year. Everyone expects that. But taxes are going to go up too, aren't they?
By a heck of a lot. Much more than inflation for us is the level of tax.
How much are we talking about?
We're talking about 1.2 million for Wetherspoon a week. Yes, it's a lot, and it's more for pubs and hospitality than for supermarkets because we've got more labour costs per pint.
And does that also include the national wage, the minimum wage that's going to go up as well?
Yes.
So what does that mean then? Does that mean that you look at opening fewer pubs? Does it mean fewer employees? Does it mean some people might have to lose their jobs?
No one's going to lose their job at Wetherspoon, but I suppose it makes you circumspect about what you're going to open in the future as a matter of common sense, because you're trying to calculate, can we still make a profit? I think when you get high taxes, it impacts most on small towns, I would say, because they're the ones with the lower levels of sales and that lower numbers of people about. So I think in the pub and restaurant industry, it'll be the smaller towns that'll be under more pressure.
Can you see prices going up for beer, for breakfast? In the sense, Wetherspoons is famous for, you know, being value for money, but if everything's going up in cost, customers are going to have to pay a bit of that, aren't they?
I think we're speaking almost not of Wetherspoon, because we'll try and do our calculations and have prices as low as we can. But overall, prices are certain to rise by the 1st of April. I think when the taxes kick in, there will definitely be an increase and an increase in inflation as a result of the tax increases.
Well, there you go. That was Sir Tim Martin speaking to me a little bit earlier. Let's get the view of some of the other businesses here in Harrogate. And I'm delighted to say we've got three fantastic local guests. First of all is Hazel Berry from the health and beauty shop H2K Botanicals. We also got Fiona Burks from the wool shop Yarn, etc. And Varun Kokana, who is head chef at the fine dining restaurant Rhubarb Harrogate. Very good afternoon to you all. Let's start with you, Hazel, if we can. What are the pressures? You look at those inflation figures today. What are you seeing in your business?
I think for us, what we're seeing is the fact that the extra costs that have been incurred as a result of the inflation will massively affect us in terms of expansion. Because obviously we're spending more money on our existing products and staff and what have you, and then suddenly those will have a huge impact on how we invest moving forward.
Fiona?
Yeah, pretty much the same actually. What we're finding is that we're having to sort of tighten up in other areas to be able to cover all the costs that are going on or being increased throughout.
When you talk about costs, give us a sense of what they are.
I mean, increased costs, we've got wages are going to be going up by 6.7%. It was 9.8% last year. The cost of our products have gone up for me to purchase in by 7 to 10%. Rent's gone up quite a substantial amount this last year, so that's all to be taken into account really. And income coming in isn't necessarily any better than it was last year.
And for a company like yours as well, big cost clearly is things like food. That's gone up today, and then also people. Hospitality is a very heavy business when it comes to needing lots of people to cook and to serve food.
Yes, it is. Everything's across the board, probably around 10%, and will continue to grow. We're seeing suppliers already increase their prices in preparation for April, and they will probably continue to go up again. So we've got to try and combat that by being savvy, but by still being good value as well for the customer.
Yeah, and are you having to pass some of that cost on?
Unfortunately, things have become a lot tighter, and it's been more of a squeeze. And unfortunately, we've tried to hold back as long as we can, but there's only so much we can hold on as a business, and we have to eventually pass it on to the consumer. I think customers are a bit more aware now than they were last year, with things going up in the supermarkets, which was a massive thing for us. The supermarket managed to hold on to their prices, but we wasn't able to. But I think it's now becoming more relevant that things will need to go up, and it will continue to go up for everybody.
And Hazel, how do you deal with all of this? Is this something that you can deal with? This is, these costs you can absorb, or at some point you go, you know what?
Well, I think I've been doing this 25 years now, so I guess I've got fairly resilient over the years.
Oh, well, then I suppose, contextualise that then, in the sense that, how do things compare? Are we exaggerating a little here?
I don't think so at all. No, I think it's been huge. I think that the NI changes have massively affected a lot of businesses. We supply the hospitality industry as well, so we've had that hit us hugely over just after COVID and during COVID, obviously. So I think the big thing for us is just in hope that the government actually recognise that small businesses like us are trying to expand and actually almost stopped in the growth because as a result of all these different changes that the government have put forward.
Is that the point then, Fiona, that you want to see the government do more? Is it? What else
would be nice. I mean, there's things like they could raise the VAT threshold. There's different things that they could do. It's tweaks more than anything, I probably think. I mean, we're having to now think outside the box. We do extra workshops and we do shows and all sorts of things to get more people aware of us. So I think it's kind of working together, but definitely there should be more help for the very small businesses, I think.
Yeah, and Varun, it's one of the things actually Tim Martin talks about, particularly restaurants and bars, VAT needs to be changed, he would argue.
Yeah, I think just after COVID there was a similar change in things, and that I think something like that would massively help. I think everything's going up and up and up and up and up, and there's only so long until things go out ridiculously priced, and I think something like that would help massively, yeah.
And just finally for all of you, do you think this year is going to be difficult? And you talk about maybe people have to lose their jobs, price is going to go up. What's the reality, I think?
I think the reality is I'll probably end up working a lot harder than I currently do. There's no way I'm going to let my staff go. They've all been with me for years. They do a great job. But yeah, I'll probably end up working a lot more hours and probably holding off on a few investments. I've got a lot of things going on anyway, but we'll probably just pull back a tiny bit.
Fiona?
Yeah, again, we'll have to work a little bit harder to upsell that little bit more. We're going to have to put prices up a little bit. We'll try and keep it to an absolute minimum, but that's what it is for the foreseeable, really.
And for just very funny, I read that you, for example, increased the service charge, for example, try to mitigate things in a small way, if you like.
Yeah, we don't have service charge on, but it might have something we might have to implement at some point, because the rising cost for also our staff is that the threshold is too close, and for our staff we might need to have that on, so they have a living wage also as well. But it's just about being savvy as a business, being able to buy a decent quality, but also be good value for the customer as well.
Hazel, Fiona, Varun, thank you very much indeed for joining us here on Sky News this afternoon. Really appreciate your time, and good luck with all the businesses in the year to come. OK, you're watching Business Live here on Sky News. We're back after this break with much more from Harrogate. This Wetherspoon's pretty busy this afternoon. Do stay tuned. I'll see you in a couple of minutes.
In the last 5 years, more than 13,000 farmers have left agriculture in the UK.
Is it going to be viable for the future?
No farmers, no food! The frustration, the anger, the fact that so many of them are at risk of going bust has now become too much.
You've got to keep hope because one day it's going to be okay.
I'm Dan Whitehead, Sky News' West of England and Wales correspondent.
It's scary what's happening in the country.
It's the illegal migrants that we don't want here.
How difficult is this to police tonight? Off the scale. Having the police speak to us so starkly right in the middle of the riot showed just how serious the situation was. The water on board the barge contaminated with Legionella bacteria, an outbreak that was first revealed by Sky News. There have been questions for months over whether the support offered to asylum seekers on the bivvy is sufficient.
A cruel place to put human beings.
From busy cities to rural communities, we spend every day reporting on how big decisions impact real people. The last smoke and steam rises into the sky above Blast Furnace 4.
Today is a day in history in Talbot.
The closure means more than 2,000 job losses.
It just seems madness.
It is a highly contagious infection. South West Water did apologise again.
This is the revenge porn helpline.
They're helping terrified victims.
You've been a victim of a very common type of online crime known as sextortion.
We're making things better for people.
Stonehenge became the latest victim of Just Stop Oil.
Now I can say I've been to the orange Stonehenge.
Sky News, get the full story first, free, wherever you get your news.
I saw police being forceful, pushing young men and women to the ground as they made almost 100 arrests. Will the cold affect your voters?
Well, we have a lot of tremendous support.
Free, wherever you get your news. The people here know that worse storms may well be on their way. I'm Martha Kellner and I'm Sky's US correspondent based here in Los Angeles.
We've got your Sunday mornings covered. From the front page and the sounds of the streets to the voices of the people who make the major calls and big picture politics beyond Westminster. We'll put you at the heart of our story. I'm ready. Are you? Join me, Trevor Phillips, Sunday mornings on Sky News.
Weeknights on Sky News.
This is your chance. Tell people. Welcome to the Politics Hub.
Our police force has apologised. If you want to find out about Grimsby, you come to the docks.
I'm live in Jerusalem.
Are you not concerned that that could lead to all-out war?
Hello there, good evening. There are fears of an upsurge in violence. What's at stake here?
You are watching the press preview, a first look at the front pages as they arrive.
Slide minutes, slide better. Slide minutes, slide better.
Very welcome back, Business Live from the Winter Gardens. Wetherspoons here in Harrogate. Let's get more on inflation. Bring in Danny Hewson, head of financial analyst at AJ Bell. Again, Danny, very good afternoon to you. We've been talking about inflation today. It is ticking up in the wrong direction.
It is ticking up in the wrong direction, and I think the really important thing to talk about here is even though we're at 3%, which is nowhere near double digits, which we saw in 2022, a lot of people are still feeling the hangover from that. They are inflation weary because while inflation had been coming down, prices hadn't necessarily been coming down. So the fact that we're seeing back up to 3% is really unwelcome for a lot of people.
And it's going to have an impact, for example, on the Bank of England when they think about interest rates.
It has to. I mean, they're in an incredibly difficult position. We've heard the word stagflation bandied around a lot today, which is basically a stagnant economy. At the same time, we're seeing rising inflation. It is not a picture that we want. The Bank of England has to try and really balance both of those things. They're walking a tightrope because on the one hand, they want to stimulate the economy by cutting interest rates. On the other hand, they want to keep a tight hold on inflation and not let it creep back up 4, 5, 6% again. At the moment, we're expecting a peak around 4%. We are still expecting a couple of interest rate cuts. That's what markets are pricing in for this year, but probably not as soon and not as many as we've been thinking.
And let's finally end on this. You know, businesses are in part quite angry then at government, aren't they? Because they think they're also being clobbered with tax rises at precisely the wrong time. Exactly the time when the government is asking for those businesses to power the economy, to invest, to stimulate economic growth. They feel that they're being held back, that there is a tax on job which is impacting their investment capability and also potentially could push up prices, which in turn pushes up inflation. Yeah, it's not necessarily what you want to hear this early in the year, but there you go. Danny Houston, as always, thank you very much indeed for your time today. Thank you. OK, well, that is it from me, from the Wetherspoons here in Harrogate, marking today's inflation figures and, as I say, that anger amongst some businesses and indeed some customers about the state of the economy. Thank you, it must be said, to the people of Harrogate for having us here from Sky News today. I'll be back in the studio tomorrow with Business Live at 11:30 and at 4:30 tomorrow afternoon. Do join me then if you can. Up next, though, it is the very latest news headlines with Mark Austin in London for the News Hour. Stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Very goodbye.
Mandatory evacuation, you must leave!
For many people, Harvey is far from over.
People here believe the water will be this deep for weeks.
I'm Greg Milam, and I'm Sky's Chief North of England correspondent.
Are you trying to run me over, Sir Philip?
No, go away.
Look like it, sir. Will you respond to those who made accusations, Sir Philip?
Can you go away?
Sky News, the full story first.
I saw police being forceful, pushing young men and women to the ground as they made almost 100 arrests. Will the cold affect your voters?
Well, we have a lot of tremendous support.
Free, wherever you get your news. The people here know that worse storms may well be on their way. I'm Martha Kellner and I'm Sky's US correspondent based here in Los Angeles.